Hey guys, it's Maddie. Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, then welcome. Today I will be sharing with you the books that I read in August. So because I took a break from YouTube, I took a month off, I didn't end up doing my August wrap-up. My original plan was to combine my August wrap-up and my September wrap-up together, but it turns out that I didn't read any books in September. So I'm sad that I can't do a September wrap-up, but we're just gonna do August instead, because I never wrapped up that month. And even though I actually read books in August, I didn't read a lot. I only read 3 books that month. At least I still picked up some books, but the thing is that I only read for like the first 2 weeks of August, and they were all really short books. And then after that, that's when my reading slump happened. So August was kind of a rocky month. But regardless, we're still gonna wrap up that month. So let's just get into the books that I read in the month of August. My braid does not want to stay on my shoulder. Just stay. Stay. It's probably going to move throughout the video. Oh well, I can't help it. So the first book that I read in August was Tempting the Player by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the second book in her Gamble Brothers series. I read the first book, which was Tempting the Best Man, in July, and I really liked it. It was a 4-star book for me, but I unfortunately didn't love the second book as much as I did the first one. This is a new adult series, and each book is a companion book that follows these 3 brothers and their romantic relationships. So in the second book, we follow a completely different character. The main girl character is actually the best friend of the main character in the first book. So we already knew a little bit about this character. And for a romance book, I unfortunately have to say that I didn't love the romance in this book. To me, it felt like it was definitely kind of insta-lovey. At the very beginning of the book, these 2 characters hook up, and then right after, they're basically acting like they love each other, and it just felt really insta-lovey for me. And I've said before that insta-love isn't my thing. I know a lot of people hate it. I am one of those people, so I did not appreciate that. Not only that, but it felt like there wasn't a lot of chemistry between the 2 main characters. I just couldn't buy their relationship. And at the end of the book, something happens in regard to the relationship that was just totally unbelievable, and I was like rolling my eyes. I'm like, are you kidding me? Did that actually happened? How did this happen? I didn't buy their relationship. And when I'm reading a romance book, you have to feel something for the romance. Otherwise, the book is just going to be a miss, at least for me. So I didn't enjoy the romance in this book. I did, however, like the characters, and that's why I am giving it a 3-star. I really like the characters throughout this series. I like the brother that we followed in this book. I thought he was very interesting. He is a baseball player, so he has kind of the fame trope following him. And I actually like reading about characters who are actually celebrities. I think the whole celebrity aspect is just so interesting to me. So to read about a character who is actually pretty much a celebrity because he's a famous baseball player was really intriguing. And I'm sad to say that this is my lowest rated Jennifer L. Armentrout book as of yet. All of her other books that I've read, I've given either 4 or 5 stars. This is my first 3-star from her. And hopefully the rest of the books that I read from her will not be lower than 3-star, because it just hurt me to give one of her books a 3-star. So the remaining 2 books that I read this month are both part of a series. It's a series that I started and I really am enjoying so far. So the first one is A Living Nightmare by Darren Shan, and this is the first book in the Cirque de Freak series. I decided to pick up this series since Allie from A Hardback Hoarder on YouTube was doing a group read-along of this series, so I wanted to join. As of right now, though, I am so far behind on the read-along that I'm probably going to have to back out of it now, but that does not mean that I'm not going to read the rest of the books in this series, because I really, really like this series. So this book is about a boy, and he sees this flyer for a circus that is coming to his town, so him and his friend decide to go. It turns out to be a circus full of freaks, so it's a freak show, and the rest of this series is basically about his adventure with this freak show. And one of the freaks is actually like a real-life vampire, and this vampire is not like your typical Edward vampire. He's like a legit vampire, which I like. I'm like sick of the romanticizing vampires trope that's been going around for so long. Like, I want a real legit vampire, and I got one in this book, which I'm so happy about. I really liked the first book. The only problem I do have with it is that it felt like a book that was like an introduction to a series, which makes sense because it's the first book in this series. But it just felt like this book only set up what was going to happen throughout the rest of the series. So I didn't feel like there was a lot of plot going on. But then we get to the second book, and that's when the plot really picked up for me. We got introduced to so many more characters in this book that were so interesting. All of the freaks in the freak show show up in this book, and they all have their own individual talents and personalities that I really loved reading about. And I felt like the second book had more of a young adult feel, whereas the first book read more like a middle grade. Like, it read really young, which was something I had to get used to since I rarely ever read middle grade books. But I liked how the second book felt like it read more like a young adult book, which is something that I was used to. And as for my ratings, I gave A Living Nightmare 4 stars, and The Vampire's Assistant I gave 5 stars since I thought the second book was a lot better than the first one. And I'm really excited to keep on reading the rest of the books in this series. I know it's an old one, but I'm so hooked now based on everything that happened in the second book that I need to continue it. So those were the 3 books that I read in August. This was a very short wrap-up because I hardly read anything, but at least I actually read some books in August, whereas in September I read nothing. So as usual, I will also let you know my stats for this month in case you are interested. So as I said, I read 3 books in August. I read 728 pages. Although I did read 3 books, they were all very short books, all under 300 pages, so I didn't expect to read all the pages, but I mean, 700, still pretty good. As for the years, I read 1 from 2012 and then 2 from the year 2000, which was the 2 books in the Cirque du Freak series, because that series is really old. And what's funny is that I never heard about that series until Allie from Hardback Hoarder mentioned it. I'm like, what is that series? But it's apparently pretty well known. I don't know. I never heard about it before then, and now I'm like, I was really missing out because it's such a great series so far. As for genres, I read 1 contemporary romance and 2 urban fantasies. For genders, I read 1 book that was by a female author, the rest were by a male author. And all the books I read that month were novels. They were also all ebooks, and they were all a part of a series. I read 1 new adult and 2 middle grades. I just now realized that I didn't read any young adult that month, which is very unusual for me. As for where each of the books took place, like their settings, I couldn't remember exactly where Tempting the Player was set in because I read these books in August, so it's been a while, but I think it was West Virginia. I'm not quite sure on that. But I put it there anyway. If not, then it definitely takes place in the US. And for the books in the Cirque du Freak series, I don't think it was mentioned the town where it was set in, but I do know that it was set in the United States. Now for ratings, I rated Tempting the Player 3 stars, A Living Nightmare 4 stars, and The Vampire's Assistant 5 stars. Next, going into readathons. So I participated in 1 readathon in August. That is one of the best readathons ever, the BookTubeathon. I read 4 books for that, which I'm super happy about because it's so rare for me to read 4 books in a week. So I was really happy with that number. And those 4 books are all the books that I read in August, plus a book that I read in July, but this readathon started at the end of July, so that's why it's not on my August wrap-up. I also completed 4 reading challenges for that readathon. The first was Let a Coin Toss Pick Your First Book. And that book for that challenge was Tempting the Best Man by Jennifer L. Armentrout, which I read in July, so that book's in my July wrap-up. The next one is to read a book with green on the cover, and for that one, I read A Living Nightmare. Next is read a book, then watch its adaptation. I counted The Vampire's Assistant for that one, since this series does have a movie adaptation, which has a very bad reputation, I had come to find out, but it really wasn't that bad. I liked it. It wasn't the best movie adaptation I had ever seen, but I still thought it was pretty decent. And then the last challenge was to read a book while wearing the same hat. That was a real fun one. And I actually completed this one. And the book that I counted towards that challenge was Tempting the Player. And lastly, out of the 14 books on my original TBR, yes, that was a failure, I read 3 of them. So that is it for my August wrap-up. I'm hoping for a better wrap-up for October. My goal for October is to read at least 10 books. That might be kind of pushing it, but I am starting to really get back into reading after my break. During my break, I was not reading whatsoever. So now that I'm kind of making videos again and getting back into reading, like, I think October is going to be a good month. At least I hope so. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below for more bookish related videos. Also be sure to click that bell icon next to the subscribe button so that you are notified when I post new videos. And if you want to hear more from me outside of BookTube, be sure to follow my social media. Those links will be down in the description box below. And I'll be back really soon. Bye.